Hi,
Thanks,
everyone,
Steve.
and welcome back to episode two, where we spend some time talking about some rather concerning bad plumbing installations. Yes, we do it in jest, and but it's a learning curve. So welcome, and thank you very much for taking the time to spend in terms of this particular program or episode two. Well, I've got to be honest. This is one that gets really gets me riled. So I will apologize before we even start. Is that these items that we're going to look at, excuse me, today are really, you look at them and say, bullshit. Could never happen. We've made it up. Let me tell you something. You can't make up this shit. Okay, that's the reality. And I have a special guest again, Mr. Richard Bailey, who's joined me. He got such a good report from the last episode that we had. Unfortunately, I think Georgie was, yeah, I can't do this. He was
Yeah,
so scared of the last pictures that we had. Georgie said, "No, I'm out of here."
yeah,
So he's taken a flyer because he's the fun. Welcome, Richard.
yeah. Thanks a lot, Steve. Georgie took two shits on my shirt. That's what he thought of the last installation we saw in the first episode.
Well, I tell you what,
So,
Richard, when it comes to these shows, I think we're going to get cucked on as well. Okay. I think my past experience that I've had, the guys have gone, how could you swear like that? I mean, and we don't do it just for the sake of it, but sometimes we have to have that expression that there's just no other word but the fuck.
yeah.
It's really how it goes down. We can do it. So yes, we do get Barbie. We do get frustrated with it. But welcome back, Richard. I thank you for taking the time out and to Willem for getting us. And it's like herding cats between you and I, trying to find the time to get this thing. So Willem, the cat herderer, has got us in the room again, and much appreciated. So, well, Richard, welcome. We're not going to do
Thank you.
intros. Everybody knows who you are. You've been cucked on twice. I don't want to cuck on you again. So,
Yeah, thanks.
let's just lock and load. So I think if we can go to some of the pictures, specifically today, we're talking geezers. I've said it. We can't make this shit up.
Yeah,
It's just the mind boggles in terms of this, and I think we need to understand the severity of these, the dangers to these, and I think we'll go through each and every one. And it seems to be Richard, and I know we audit and we see these photos and be very close to the coalface that we see these more and more prevalent in terms of this. Now we're not saying that the installers here were plumbers, but the word plumber will come up. So please, to the audience, don't be offended when we say the plumber did this or whatever. So let's start the journey. We can do a before and after. You know how happy we are, and how collective. I think we've
you know,
taken a couple of comments before we get going. So let's have a look at the first picture.
yeah, Steve, you were saying this. Maybe it's not a plumber, but I can tell you one thing. He promotes himself as a plumber. This guy. Yeah. So
So
what
Richard,
do you think of that?
this one here. I mean, if I was a yacht, it's taken the wind out of myself. I don't even know. I know what I think. What do you think, Richard?
Did you not? Are you not familiar with this? Were you not familiar with that methodology?
No, I've got no idea. It's above my pay
No,
grade. I
man.
think
It's
it's
I've done it.
something.
No, I've done it a few times, man. It's you look here. Let me show you. You got the TP. Install the TP in the hot water outlet port, right? Upside down. Then you've got a temperature probe, and all you do is you now take a temperature, and well, if you want to measure the temperature of the geyser, this is how you do it. You just take a cable tie and you tie it together, and Bob's your uncle. Now you can measure the temperature. How else are you going to do it, Steve?
Well, Richard,
How else are you
I'm
going
gonna.
to? Are you not
I have a
familiar with this?
pen for you, and it says you
Let
can go.
me put
That
switch this on.
that should be cut out. There we go.
No,
Richard,
I can't
I
believe you're
can
not
see what's
familiar
going
with
to
this
happen.
method.
I'm going to see what's going to happen. Somebody somewhere is going to come along, and we're going to have that attached to one, and they're going to go. Richard said so. So
Yes.
I get where you're going. Uh, Maybe it's atmospheric pressure and temperature that they're trying to measure. I don't know, but the reality, and I like your manner in which you're trying to defend the individual that did this, but I'm not going to accept it. So I have to unfortunately give you a finger for that one.
Okay. All
And
right.
and and just
Fair enough.
because you actually sat down and took the time, I'm gonna also give you the box. Okay.
Steve,
But,
I've also got a box, but I'll keep mine. I'll keep mine for.
okay, you keep your plain dirty, but I'm telling you now. So Richard, you know,
No.
to the audience, this isn't just, we're trying to shed some light or light the comments on it. But it's serious, Richard. Am I correct in saying that?
That's,
What we
yeah.
it is shocking. Doesn't understand the question. It's you can't even go down the road of what were they thinking, because they
No.
fucking weren't thinking.
It's
Why do you even
unbelievable.
imagine that component's there? You created a bomb. It's
It's
totally
unbelievable.
ludicrous.
I mean, the only thing I can think of that happened there is a handy Andy came across this bloody thing on his geyser that's pissing water all the time. What do I look at this bloody thing? Phone my mate who's a handy Andy, and he comes, no, that's easy. It doesn't leak when you turn it around. We'll just turn it around. I can't understand. I can think of nothing else. I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's
We've seen it's not the first time that we've seen this. I think there's been a couple of pictures of that have gone around that we see, and to emphasize back to the listeners and those attending or whatever, is that we see these things. Some worse than others, some we just can't even explain, and I think this is one of those. Is
yeah.
that what happened after that? I mean, I don't know,
Well,
Richard.
what?
It's not often that I'm lost for words. I have lots of words, but I think Willem would have to go beep 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 beep, and that's all you hear. And I'd have all the fingers going and everything else. But
Well, I
the
mean,
importance of that. Let's talk about that TP for a minute, Richard. Okay, let's be clear, and it might be going back to grade naught naught naught. Martin Kutsia would tell us and has told us for years is the TP is one of the most, if not the most important component on a geyser. That's it. It has a dual function. It protects the cylinder, protects the consumer. It alleviates pressurization and regulates the temperature so that it can open up and ensure that that cylinder operates within safe parameters. These are 101 plumbing.
yeah, it's the
I can't
last line
understand
of
how we get to
defense.
that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just. I mean, let's. It is what it is, Steve. Let's call it. It's ignorance. So the person obviously doesn't know the function of a TP valve or what it's there for and what it's there to do, or the importance of it. That's obvious. So it's ignorance. We're not. There's a difference between stupidity and ignorance. Ignorance is simply something that I wasn't aware of or I haven't been taught. But it would be much worse if the person did know what it was. But I seriously doubt
Did
it.
we have this? And you defend that. And in most geezers, not all geezers that you buy, there's a bloody big sticker on the side of the geyser. It's very clear in terms of how it should be done. And we know you'll go out, it's there. I mean, the manufacturers and everybody go to the extremes in terms of putting all of this information together. Their little warranty booklets that cover all these things. We, from an IOPSA perspective and other associations ad nauseam, have gone and said, guys, Jesus. And we'll have a tech talk and they'll go, oh, summer's evening are fucking geezers again. But the problem
But
is
this
we
is
don't seem to see the changes.
we don't see the changes. And I mean, why is it that Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones and Handy Andy is allowed to go and buy a geyser in the first place? You
Well,
know?
that we can do nothing about, that we can do nothing about, but and it happens, and we
Yeah.
wish that we could turn that around. And I think that industry, working together, we may get there. It may not be in our lifetime that it gets there, but there's certain countries that do, and there's certain states that do that. But the challenge for me is that we see this more and more often, and the
Yeah,
dangers to the consumer. I mean, that's collectively a bomb. It's let's go. Thermostat fails, it boils, it goes. You know,
yeah.
there's danger. So let's hopefully look at the next one, and maybe this is a little bit more defendable
Well, let's cross our
than the
fingers,
previous
Steve.
one. Cross our fingers. Willem,
Yeah,
what do you have for us?
yeah.
Well, Richard, yeah.
Well, no, the problem with that is that the vacuum breaker isn't 300 mil above the geyser.
You know, when you bring
See,
out these type of comments, it concerns me a little bit because, you know, I was going to say that they just turned that into a jewel valve, you know, but in terms
ah,
of the TP, and I say that in jest. Okay, Richard,
no,
again,
we both going, we both slightly grey in the jowls here, Steve. And you know, before this show started, Willem said I reminded him of Nanny McPhee, and you know, I didn't
Henning
take that too
McPhee.
kindly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, we'll, but this is why we go
But
grey.
Richard, let's go
This is
back to
why we
that,
go grey.
Richard. Come on, you know, any responsible, registered, qualified plumber knows that you can rotate those legs. You know, in those geysers that you can't, you'll order a horizontal or a vertical or a whatever, or a wall or a floor. Okay. You know, positioning of the vacuum breaker, I mean, clearly in terms of that
Yeah,
start to
no,
finish is not
yeah,
there. But the geyser, the consumer, the warranty, everything goes on that. You
yeah,
know, it's not even going to function properly because it's not positioned correctly. You know, you're going to get half of the hot water out of it. And it's not the first or the last time that we're going to see somebody put a vacuum breaker on the TP discharge.
no,
And it happens, and we see it happening often. And what gets me is that there was possibly a quote from a responsible plumber, and he was told, "You're too bloody expensive.
yeah,
I can get it done for this." And it's like they say, you get what you pay for.
yeah,
Um, But then we've got to, with all of these, we got to look at the manufacturer and the impact that it has on the manufacturer. And they will tell you that the majority of their service calls that they receive, and they run around doing all these service calls, is incorrect installation.
correct. Yeah, and I
And
mean that is clearly. I mean, we can say it 100 times, but it's again ignorance. But that has seen a geyser installed somewhere, and he's noticed that there's this pipe that stands up, and it's from there, and it's supposed to go, but he's not quite sure what goes where. And this funny thing came with the geyser, so it must go in there. It fits, and then he must just. This is how I can see it developing. And the consumer that is installing it for perhaps has chosen the 2,500 guy as opposed to the 12,500 guy, and you get what you pay for. But you know, at the end of the day, as an industry body, we can't just gloss over it and pretend it doesn't exist.
no, you
There's,
can't.
it
And you know, the
exists.
scary thing, Richard, the scary thing for me is the amount of complaints that we receive where the consumer goes, "Oh, I want to report the plumber." And let's say hypothetically it was this particular job, there's really nothing that we can do. You know, the
Yeah,
plumber's not licensed. You know, there was no certificate issued. He's not an IOPSA member, whatever. Now you drive that person to, you know, consumer goods and services or whatever. But the frustrating part for me has always been, it amazes me how the consumer can find the professional bodies or associations after the fact and not looking
yeah.
for them before. That would be the logical thing to do. But like they say, common sense doesn't grow in every garden. You know what I
Uh,
mean? So let's see if
you
there's anything else, Willem, that can brighten our day and lighten the hair on the chinny chin chin of Richard.
know.
Uh,
Gee. Willem, I thought we said brighten our day.
yeah,
What the hell gaan hier aan? Okay, well, yeah,
Richard,
Steve.
you know, let's go and look at what the standard says. You know, when it talks about the discharge from the TP.
Yeah,
Down and out of metallic pipe, no 90-degree elbows, etc., etc. Cannot be reduced
I mean,
more than 4 meters. X amount of bends. You need to increase the size of
yeah.
it. So let's go and look at that. Polycop non-metallic pipe shouldn't be utilized. Then we take it one step further and we use a braided connector. Now,
Which
if you
has
go
got
and
an
have a look
inside.
at what the standards call for, and you'll find it on your computer quicker than I will, in terms
Yeah,
of where you can and utilize a braided connector.
yeah.
It's at a terminal fitting. You cannot
Terminal
use it
fitting.
as a joint, etc. And it's in the standards. But how do you get to this? How do we get to a point of an individual sitting there and somebody will turn around and say it was Friday afternoon. We had just done the geyser. The supplier was 50 k's that way, and we looked and we had a bit of polycop. And then we thought, oh, here we got a braided connector we just had in the back of the van from the last job we did, and we'll come back on Monday, or we'll tell the boss or whatever. And yeah,
It's
nothing
not
happens.
acceptable. No, it's not acceptable. And I
Yes,
mean, you can see that braided connectors, and it's been there for a while because it's actually got a rust or a corrosion, a spot
yeah,
of
that's
corrosion in the
corroding.
middle.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
one they had in the back of the van, or it's been
correct.
there before. The attention to detail. But I've had it, where there's an audit and there's a complaint, for example, and you find out and you say, yeah, no, it was, we were busy and yeah, we were gonna go back and do it. But we just did it temporary. I had the discussion at plumbers evening last night. How long is temporary? Define that word. We temporary. Temporary
Yeah,
becomes permanent, after a while. So
exactly.
really, in terms of the standards, Richard, and it's something that we've driven and we've done these on tech talks and we've done numerous things. We've had plumbers' evenings, we've done that. And it's to get across and say the responsibility of the plumber, and there won't be a guarantee on that unit or whatever the case may be. And it's impacted on the plumber or the consumer in terms of that. So,
Look,
yeah,
Steve, let's
hopefully,
be honest. Let's be honest. I mean, when we do tech talks and talk at plumbers' evenings and the PRB advocates certain things, IOPSA puts out training sessions. We reach the people that will not do this. The people that
yeah.
we reach are
Mhm.
not these
Yeah,
installers. So let's be honest about that. But I think it's important that we all recognize what is actually out there. Not that we need to be told. I think we
yeah,
all, as plumbers, we come across it. We know it's out there. But I feel the more we can beat the drum and the more we can get pissed off about it and say, this is not right. This is my industry that is being dragged through the mud. We all get painted by the same brush.
totally.
I'm not satisfied with the status quo. Something's got to change. Something's got to happen. And
No,
the
I
more we
think the
can get
more
pissed off
more
about
we
it,
do that, every time I'll have a meeting with an IOPSA or whatever, and the guys will say, "No, we'll do some installer training, or we'll do some training," and they'll be, "Please not geezers again. Please
yeah,
not geezers again. Please not the TP, whatever." But I think, based on information, there was certainly a time where things were going on the up. We started to see better and better. That some things changed that were outside of our control, and now they're starting to slide back. And
yeah,
not to say that these photos have been done in the last sort of 8 months, 9 months, a year, but it was accountability. Where
yeah,
is the pride? I was talking somewhere the other day, and as a journeyman, my journeyman anyway would say, Steve, when you've done stuff, stand back, look at it, and say, would you be proud of this installation? Would this be, something that you would stand back and go, cross your arms, say, I did this.
yeah,
And I sometimes ask that question of others and say, do you actually do that? Do you actually look back and say, yeah, I'd be proud of this installation, other than, well, maybe I'll get audited 5%, and then I'll quickly go fix it, but I'll get
yeah,
away with the rest. So
yeah.
let's see if there's anything else we have, Willem. I mean, we already, blood pressure's gone up and Richard's beering there. I think he's trying to get Georgie to come back and have a chat with. Oh, here we
Yeah.
go.
Georgie's resigned.
Yeah, no, Georgie's resigned. So here we 3 for 3. Again, Richard.
Yeah,
Same type of principle. I don't know where the PRV is.
yeah. That, that's just unbelievable. I mean, look at that. I think that is that shut-off valve there. Uh, I hope to goodness that that is not supposed to be the inlet to that geyser. Anyway, yeah. So there we have another TP valve, which is
The vacuum breaker.
vacuum breaker on top because it looks right. There was something in that geyser that I saw a couple of months ago where it had a pipe straight up and it had this pretty green thing on top. So I'm going to do mine the same. And that's in a garage. You can see there's a roof on top. It's mounted
Yep.
internally. You can see that it is, I'm assuming this is a new build because there's a wall to the right of it that has just been plastered and hasn't been painted yet. So this is a home that is being built, and somebody employed a plumber to come and plumb this property. And judging by that, you know, I feel very, very sorry for the person that eventually ends up living in that house. I mean,
I think also, you know, Richard, I mean, I'm sure if we looked at other photos, I mean, they concentrated on that, you know, that I think if we looked at the entire, you know, you'd find a hell of a lot more in terms of that. But I think the emphasis to us is very clear, you know, lack of understanding in terms of where a vacuum breaker actually goes, you know, to some, not those that are attending here. We're just hoping that they'll look at it and go, oh, get that to us, you know, I could even think that way. But it happens. It really happens. It's dangerous. It affects warranties. It affects us, and affects us as a plumber because, as you said, we get painted by the same.
And the thing is, you know, we need to ask ourselves as a profession, as plumbers, are we okay with this kind of shit happening in our midst? Are we okay with that?
Yeah, I don't think we're okay. I think that, you know, if you had to go and have a look at it, I mean, you know, I keep saying the plumbers are the salt of the earth. And, you know, although we have all of these protections in terms of standards and local bylaws, it's a very easy entry business. Okay. It's, you know, have tools will travel, you know, and it's, we can't stop it. I mean, you know, although there are many ways in which you know, very clear in terms of standards, who can do plumbing, who can do electrical, whatever. But the problem, who polices it? You know, if you have to phone up the local authority and say, "Hey, come and have a look at this geyser," what would they do?
Yeah,
nothing. You know, nothing. So I think for us, it's you know, when we have these type of things, as much as in a perfect world, if we could go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow and the world was golden, that everybody did the right things, then yeah, wonderful. But we are going to have this. So it goes back to a conversation. And I think PIRB have been doing it to a certain extent, but it's up to every single one of us is to be able to promote our professionalism, to be able to promote the accountability that a licensed plumber or a member of an association has, that if there's a problem with my work, Mr. Jones, there is recourse, there is accountability.
Correct.
In these cases, in most cases, that's not going to happen. You're going to put that down to the school of hard knocks. You're going to have a story to tell your grandkids and how much money it cost you. But for us, it's to be able to market ourselves, to be able to have the soft skills, to be able to explain to that consumer that price that you've got of $2,500, as you said, you know, earlier, it doesn't give you this, and this. And for me also, it's the, you know, there are many plumbers out there that will stand by the certificate and say, I'll still, even though it's not required in the standard, they will say, I will give you the certificate. I will stand on my word, and there's the accountability. So I think it's just about our soft skills. It's about how do we justify? I said last night, you know, when you're pricing something, make it like a car. When you bite into that, it must be everything that's in there, as opposed to the one that you've got to open it up and there's hardly anything in there. You know, you can clearly see the difference between the two.
Yeah, 3 a.m. garage fire.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, that last part that you're talking about, but the one that puts you off work. Yeah, that big jack. Yeah, Blim, what have we got up your sleeve for our next one? Yeah, okay. So
it's all about TPs. I mean, here again.
Yeah. So Richard, you know, we know what the standards are very clear. Okay, with regards to accessibility of components. Now, this is not accessible in terms of maintenance. To try and get that out through the probe, you're going to bend, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. It hasn't been taken in. Some individuals will say, and I've had it before, where I say, we just disconnect the geyser, take the whole geyser out and, you know, put it back in. But, you know, the definition of accessibility is certainly not that. Then
But
we have the reduction. It's now been reduced to 15 mil, and then we have a 90 on it. It's up, it's not down and out, and then we have a non-compliant material that's been utilized to do it. These are entry level plumbing 101, not how to do it.
but the TP itself was installed incorrectly in the first place, because as we've already established, Steve, we need to install the TP with the probe outside so we can measure the temperature of the geyser. So that's the first mistake that he made,
Thank you
unfortunately.
for that comment, Richard.
Okay. So
By the end of this, Richard, I'm telling you now, in 3 months' time, if we get pictures of your concoction that you put together, the liability will be lying with you. Okay, we do not condone that, please. Okay, so Richard, although he looks serious, he's not serious. Okay, but yes,
not
Richard.
serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
101
Uh,
shouldn't do it. Extra additional costs. If it fails, replacement, additional money. The consumer's not protected in any way. Warranty may be voided. I mean, it's an old unit and whatever.
yeah.
But
And,
right,
and there's a lot of chatter about the TP discharge at the moment, depending on when you listen to this. But as we record this, there's noises in the breeze about some testing having been done to perhaps relook at the requirements for the discharge. As it stands now, it is still a requirement as per normal, the
yeah,
22 mil
things change. Yeah,
upsized, but
yeah,
excuse me. But what I wanted to say is that the function of the TP never gets changed. It is the
yeah,
last line of defense. It's an extremely important thing. And another thing is that I often hear clients, especially that are not that clued up and they don't have exposure to this very often. They say, well, how often can this actually happen? I mean, what really can go wrong? I mean, this thing's been like that for 8 years
yeah,
and nothing's happened. So what really is the danger? Well, you and I both know, Steve, that because we're in the industry and because we're exposed to this from a body, an organizational perspective, where we probably come across more installations, we are shown more bad installations, but we also are shown a lot of consequential or
yeah,
consequences of these bad installations. So when you start showing videos and pictures of horrifically damaged homes with walls and roofs blown off, or flooded homes, or people with third-degree burns on half of their body, then one starts to take notice. And I mean, I don't know, just think of an analogy. So how many guns are kept out of a safe? Well, it's law to keep it in a safe. Yeah, but it's been out of the safe for 5 years. How many accidents have happened? Only one or two. No, but it's not okay. One or two is one or two too many. So you've got to, it's just, and I come back to it, Steve. We got to get pissed off as an industry, man. We got to get pissed off as plumbers, and be willing to grip our industry back.
I 100% agree with you. When I was at a meeting the other night, and they're going, "Shop it has been okay," and the issue is it's okay until it's not.
Yeah.
You could do 30 like that, and for whatever wanton reason, nothing's a problem. Then you do it on the next one, and it doesn't make it right. So what you've been doing, traveling at 150, not getting caught, doesn't raise the speed limit. Because the law is still in place. And I
Yeah.
think when plumbers are going out there, and I believe that our members and our licensed plumbers that are doing that, when they're going out and they're finding these installations, yes, they bring it to our attention. But I believe that they are now marketing that to say, man, sir, whatever, this needs to be sorted out. We
Yeah.
can't just do this. I've had many situations in terms of what do we do when, it can't comply. Then what is the next step? Then we've got to take it and make it safe.
Yeah.
Safe is not just leaving it in the roof, or safe is not just bringing it above a bathroom or, over a walkway outside. There are ways and means in which to do it and to cover yourselves. And I think that for me is our wrapping this up today. is that it's not acceptable. The consequences are severe. The risk, and we talked about the risk assessment in our previous
Yeah.
show, is that we just need to up our game. We just need to up the game and be firm and strong in terms of the standards, because that is what's going to defend you, because nobody can contradict.
Yeah, 100% agree. The standards are, in fact, as much as people think it's a ball ache, the
Yeah.
standards are, in fact, your strongest ally, your
Yes.
most potent weapon. And you got to look at them like that, as an ally, as a suit of armor almost, that can protect you in liability cases. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, like they say when you get in the ring, what does the referee say to the two boxers? Defend yourself at all times.
Yeah.
And we, as the plumbing professionals, we need to make sure that we defend ourselves at all times. So, Richard, I'm going to thank you very much for joining me. I'm sure we'll see you in the future, and to Philip for putting this all together. I think it really is great, and I'm enjoying the conversations and the discussions. And then to those in attendance, send us your photos, send us your videos, and hopefully we'll be able to share your views and what you've sent through, and maybe have that conversation. So I bid you all farewell, and thank you, and have a great week going forward. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks a lot, Steve.